we going to be like it? There we go. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you to the 24th Special Meeting of Council. I'd like to recognize first that we're on the traditional territory of the Sinixic First Nation. Our clerk today will be Ms. Sheila Goury. Welcome, Ms. Goury. The question period sign-up sheets are on the partition walls near the gallery. If any member of the gallery has a question relating to an agenda item only, they are welcome to sign their name and the agenda item on the sheet, and at the call of question period, I will bring you forward to ask your questions. And the first item on the agenda is the introduction of late items. I understand we have none, correct, Ms. Goury?
That is correct, Your Worship. There's no late items.
I would then ask for a motion for approval of the agenda. Councillor Thorpe, seconded Councillor Himmons. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. We don't have any delegations today. We do have a number of reports, however. And the first is the 2018 Statement of Financial Information. Ms. Mercer, you're the star today.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, it's the finance show today. Each year, the city is required under legislation to complete a Statement of Financial Information, or as we call it, the SOFI report. And this report must be completed by June and presented to Council before June 30th of each year. The SOFI report must include a statement of debt, which is, we note in the report that it's stated in note 9 of our financial statements. So currently the city has 46.1 million in debt in 2018. We are also required to put in a schedule of guarantee and indemnity. And again, we reference note 12 of our financial statements in the report, and we have a 2 million line of credit for the Port Theatre Society. But we have to note it because we've guaranteed their line of credit. The bigger parts of the report are the schedule of remuneration and expenditures, as well as the schedule of goods and services. So this remuneration and expenses, we're required to list all of mayor and council, as well as any staff that earn over $75,000 and their corresponding expenses. And so that is what is listed in the report. And we break it down by the 3 different types of employment groups we have. The schedule of goods and services are for vendors that we've paid over $25,000. So we're required to list all of those vendors. As well as we have to list a schedule of severance agreements. And in 2018, we had one, and it represented 2.5 months of salary. The anomaly, or the difference between, we compare 2017 and 2018, and there is a noticeable difference between 2017 and 2018 in the number of employees that we had on the SOFI report in those 2 years. And it is due to the fact that we had a QP contract settlement in 2018 that was retroactive to January 1st, 2017. So what happened is that retro pay bumped them over the 75,000 mark. So that's, and I noted that in the report as well. So it is in front of you for approval today.
Thank you very much. Councillor Turley.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a few questions, if I might. One is the expenses for employees. There's 9 of them that show over $5,000. I'm assuming there's a process by which that is approved ahead of time?
Through Your Worship, to Councillor Turley, yes. Anybody that, there's a couple of cases where you'd be over 5,000. If you went to usually about if you go to 2 seminars a year or so, or conferences, that can get you pretty close to 5,000. Anybody who's registered for courses that are of a substantial amount of money, there's always an agreement with HR, and there's stipulations around that. I know the top expense getter, he was enrolled in the CPA program, and there was an agreement that the finance department had with HR that agreed to pay for his education over a couple of years.
And Your Worship, if I could have a few more, sorry.
Important topic, Councillor Turley. Ask as many questions as you'd like.
Thank you. So under the goods and services exceeding 25,000, Minister of Finance, is that the MSP and EHT, or is that?
Yeah, it could be numerous things, like anything that generally that we pay to the province can fall under that. So there's a combination of things. PST would be one of them.
Right, and there's an amount for Rollins Machinery Limited of over 3 million. Is that for equipment leases, or is that
Sorry, what vendor?
on page 31? It's Rollins Machinery.
Oh, that would have been, I believe that was for the automated garbage
Oh, okay.
machines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not quite finished.
Okay.
And then on the next page, there's Stuart McDonald, is it? As Stuart in Trust for
Yep.
just about 3.5 million. It's on page 32.
Yeah, so depending, I don't know the specifics of that off the top, but usually if we have purchased land or anything like that, that they would go, or settlements and that kind of thing, they go through the trust part of their corporation.
Great, thank you very much.
Anyone else? I have a question, Ms. Mercer. I assume, you know, it's a favorite for people to be critical of the salaries that they provide the money for, and I'm speaking of the term taxpayers here. And there are some fairly substantive salaries. I'm going to take it, all of this also reflects overtime, necessary overtime as well?
Yes. It is inclusive. The remuneration amounts are what would have been reported on a T4.
No other questions? Then would someone care to make the recommended motion? Councillor Hemmons, seconded Councillor Thorpe. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Ms. Mercer, the 2018 annual municipal report, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Like the SOFI report, the city must produce an annual municipal report by June 30th of each year. Under this particular one is under the community charter that requires us to do that. And there are certain aspects of the annual report that we must include. And some of those fall in financial statistics and some fall in other areas. The report is kind of outlined as it outlines the profile and the details of the city, who the council is. We do a progress report on our strategic plan. So next year the report will reflect the plan that this council just approved. We have department descriptions and the achievements and the projected the priorities for the following year. We also have our annual financial statements and some financial statistics as well. So this really is a very collaborative communication document, and the finance department leads the process, but everybody, all the departments contribute to it. Tammy Tour, our communications and graphics specialist, she puts it all together for us, and we feed her the information and she puts it together. We leverage a lot of information out of the business plans that we presented to you in the fall for our 2019-2023 financial plan process. And once our financial statements are completed, that's when all of the statistical information gets completed for the report. And as per legislation, we have to have this report available to the public 2 weeks before this meeting. So it has been available to the public on the website since June 10th.
Very good. Councillor Hemmons?
Thank you. I apologize that I didn't ask these questions in advance because they might be too detailed to answer, but page 27, there's an indication that the weight per household that we sent to the landfill in 2018 went up by more than 5 times. And I'm wondering if that's a typo or if that's related to the yard waste collection.
Through your worship to Councillor Hemmons, I would have to look into that because I'm not sure. And okay, but Mr. Sims can probably answer that for you.
Your worship, Councillors Hemmons, I'm sorry, that's not appropriate.
A little
Councillor
bird
Hemmons
told you, Mr. Sims?
has picked up on a typographical error. So we have had an increase in per household collection because we're providing larger bins. But this is an interesting subject because overall the RDN is seeing a 2% decline in household collection or total weight at the landfill. So there's less residents self-hauling and more taking advantage of the bin. So it should be in the range of 169 or 164 kilograms per household.
Okay, so that is a typo.
It is a
was that-
typo,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. And one more, if I may. Page 44, bylaws, calls, and complaints. I'm sorry, my screen isn't scrolling as fast as I'd like it to, but it indicates that we don't have numbers for bylaw complaints and calls for 2016 and 2017. Were we just not tracking data?
That, I believe, is, I'm just looking at it now. I don't think they had a breakdown in the number of complaints, so they had a more detailed for 2018. I would have to follow up on that.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Hearing none? No further discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, I haven't made the recommended motion yet. I am rushing. Councillor Hemmons, thank God, saved the day. Seconded Councillor Thorpe for approve the annual municipal report. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The next is the 2018 Annual Parking Reserve Fund Report. Ms. Mercer?
Thank you, Your Worship.
Again.
Per legislation, again, we're required to prepare an information report to council on any parking statutory funds that we have, and we need to do this by June 30th of each of the following years. So currently, the only parking stat reserve that we have is the Old City Neighborhood Reserve Fund, and at December 31st, there was a reserve balance of $90,892, and this had earned about just under $2,000 in interest for the year, and nothing was paid out of the reserve during the year.
Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded Councillor Turley. Discussion? Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you,
That
Your
was a
Worship.
broad hint to look at my screen.
It
and
was
see
fairly
which to
broad,
speak.
yes. Thank you, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. And I will apologize ahead of time because I recall, I think I asked the same question a year ago, Ms. Mercer.
What it's for.
And I'm just looking for some background on why we have this one parking reserve for the Old City area. It obviously is a one-off, and I don't know why it exists on its own. And I'm sure others out
Yeah.
there don't either.
Yeah, and this is something we're looking into for the reserve policy as well, to see what we can spend it on. It is quite old, and my guess is when we were developing the downtown, there was money that went into this reserve for payments in lieu of parking spots. So it's to do with more parking, to fund parking improvements in the downtown Old City neighborhood core. But I don't believe that there's a whole lot of projects for that in that area. So, but I would have to, I'll follow up because I know we are looking at this for our reserve report.
Thank you, fine.
Councillor Bonner.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to staff. You may not be able to answer this question either, but could this fund be used to, say, buy high-tech parking meters that work off driver's license, plate numbers, as opposed to the meters that we have or the 2-hour parking that we have?
Yeah, that again, I don't have that specific information off the top of my head, but we can certainly, there should be somewhere where this specifically stipulates what can and cannot be purchased through this reserve.
Any other questions? I must say I'm grateful to Councillor Thorpe because I was going to ask exactly the same question and a similar question to Councillor Bonner's. You've got money kicking around, it's earning interest, and we have needs in the city. It seems a bit silly not to be spending it on something or transferring it there where it could be spent. Any further discussion? Then I would ask for the motion. Moved, Councillor Hemmond. Sorry, well, remove that one's moved. Yeah, just hang on. Yes, thank you. I'm not paying attention today. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Now, on to the 2018 Development Cost Charge Reserve Fund Report. Ms. Mercer again.
Thank you. And like the parking reserves report, we are required to do the same thing for the development cost charges. So currently, we have one DCC fund that accumulates money for all the different sources of DCC, so parks, roads, sanitary water, and they all go into this reserve. And the balance at December 31st was $46,789,703. And during the year, we collected just over $7 million in DCC revenue. The fund earned about $981,000 in interest, and we funded projects to the tune of just under $3.9 million.
Well, we have, actually, properly speaking, we don't even have to move this. It's just a receiving.
No, thank you, Your Worship. As well as the last report, it was for information purposes only, so you just would receive it by virtue of it being in your agenda.
Do we have any questions? I'm going to ask a question. I appreciate this is a statutory report and requirements, just for the sake of at least letting the audience, I don't know, we're paying attention here, which we are. Obviously, we're not expending from it as much as comes in a given year, and that's for the purpose of building it up so that we match our potential liabilities and expenditures in the future. Are we using a particular formula, or is it a statutory formula, or is this a more determined by policy?
The bylaws stipulate the projects and whatnot that would be spent on. We have to do there's a 1% assist factor that the city must contribute for projects. So there is some type of formula when we go to fund projects, as we cannot 100% fund a project from DCC revenues. So there is, our financial planning department works their magic with that and making sure that we're all on side with the funding.
Mr. Rudolph.
Your Worship, it was less than 2 years ago, there was a refresh of the DCC bylaw undertaken. That was previous council. It may not be a bad idea to bring that back to you just for your information so you understand what's in it and how it was put together in the process and how long it's, how it works. So it's, I think it would make a lot of sense for you to see that and have an opportunity, maybe at a GPC or something, just to receive and discuss and understand it. We'll bring that forward as part of our budget process.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much, Ms. Mercer. We don't have to have a motion on this. Under bylaws, the next item on the agenda, the bylaw status sheet, is for information only. We have no correspondence, no notices of motion, no other business. I think it's safe to assume there's no question period. A motion for adjournment would be appropriate.
So moved.
So moved, Councillor Armstrong, seconded Councillor Bonner. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you very much, everyone.